Hi, welcome to Every Single Journey, a family life original podcast for singles. My name is Becki. I'm a single girl in my 30s who is passionately pursuing this life God has given me. Join me as we navigate this season of singleness together. Joining us on episode 2 are my two co-hosts and coworkers, April.
Hi.
And Mike.
Hello.
Like me, they're also single. Today, we are going to take a look at loneliness. I feel like this is a struggle for a lot of us. So what is loneliness? And what are some circumstances or things that make us feel lonely?
Well, I can start because whenever I am trying to figure things out, I always like to go to the dictionary and definitions and determine what does this mean. So I found online, loneliness is a deep emotional response to a perceived lack of connection. And I found that to be interesting because oftentimes I think we think of if you're single, you must be lonely because you live alone. And we're just looking at that physical proximity to people. But it seems like loneliness is something that doesn't just end with the physical. It goes deeper than that. It's more about, are you feeling connected to the people you're surrounding yourself with, or are you feeling isolated? And I don't think that's necessarily just something a single person deals with.
Mike, I really like that you brought that up because that was something that I had thought of too, as far as being surrounded by people but feeling so alone, because I remember when I was in high school, I felt so lonely, and I was single then. I didn't have a relationship, but in my mind, I was like, if I just had a boyfriend, I would have somebody to text. I would have somebody to check in with. I would have somebody to be at this group gathering with me. And then the irony of it kind of hit me when I was thinking about this is I would have someone to be at this group gathering with me so I wouldn't feel alone. And I'm like, wait, I'm at this group gathering and I'm feeling alone. And just realizing I could be completely surrounded by people, but on the emotional side of things, feel that lack of connection and still feel alone because I'm not choosing to participate. For me, at least, it was because I wasn't choosing to participate in the conversation or the activities happening. I was more of just observing or being a wallflower. And I was like, oh, that hit home in a way that caused me to think more about it's not just my relationship status that can cause me to feel that like I'm alone, but it's more of an emotional state.
Yeah, and I think something you mentioned earlier, I think we have this notion, whatever types of things we feel like we're lacking, we cling to those things and say, if only this changed, then everything else would be fixed. If I weren't single, then I wouldn't be lonely. And if I were married, that would fix everything. And I think that the wisdom you often hear is if you're struggling with something before you're married, you're probably still going to be struggling with it afterwards. That's not the fix all. That's not the completion. It's I assume there are some very rewarding parts to marriage, but it's not your savior. It's not going to fix all of that, I don't think.
And I think that sometimes marriage just highlights, even in a greater way, loneliness, because as a single person, there is a temptation to believe like, oh, this situation can change and then everything will be solved. But we all know people who are in marriages and life isn't constant. It's not a fixed mark. It's the only constancy in life is that it changes and varies, and people will be lonely when they have struggles with infertility and they feel so apart from everyone else, or if they have, the loss of a child, or their children grow up and go on to beautiful things, their lives change. And I think that some of the marrieds that I know that have struggled the most with loneliness have said that option on the horizon to instantly make it all go away isn't there. And so then you're forced to deal with loneliness. And I think that's one of the things about loneliness that, as we were talking about this topic and thinking about it, I was just pondering, God made humans for connection, right? Like in the very beginning, he's so intimately involved, and he's fashioning from the clay. He's got his hands on Adam, and then he speaks to him and walks with him in the garden. We are made to connect. And you know, obviously God brings a woman in because Adam longs for more connection. And I think for me, that highlight difference between being alone and loneliness is something that I have to remind myself. I can be lonely in crowds, and I can be lonely alone, but one doesn't negate the other or indicate that I will be the other.
And it's so easy, like what we've all been talking about is like the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And I feel like whether I'm single or married, there's always going to be that temptation of, oh, the grass is greener on the other side, and fall into that trap of like, oh, marriage will make me not lonely. Like there'll be that person that has to pay attention to me. And I feel like that gets my view off from God and onto myself, and then makes dealing with loneliness so much harder because my focus is so off. Because like you said, April, God created us for community. And I was also reading that passage in Genesis, and it stuck out to me for the first time that God created Adam and then said it's not good for him to be alone. He created all of the wildlife, all of the birds, all of the animals, and brought them before Adam, and Adam named them all, and they all still fell short, and Adam still needed companionship. So then he created woman and had a companion that was like him. And it's just so fascinating to me that God cares so much about us that he's not going to stop until he gives us what we need to continue on and to pursue him. And that was just a thought that I was like, wow, I had never seen it that way before. And my remembering of that verse, it was always, oh, God created Adam, and he created the birds and the animals and the beasts, and then realized he was alone and said it's not good for him to be alone, and then created the woman. It's like, no, he went through an even longer process before he created a companion for him.
Well, I think that other thanness, right? Like the word you mentioned of likeness, there's something so important about that feeling like others. And I find, you mentioned, Mike, about connection. I feel connected when I can feel a part of something. I can feel common humanity, or I can just feel like, you know, you're at a sports event and everyone's cheering, and you're a part of the group in that moment because you're not other than. And so, you know, I just, when you were saying likeness, it just was like sparking my heart of the times that I feel most disconnected is when I feel not single, but singled out, like pulled apart from the others, pulled apart from community or fellowship or connection. And one of the ways that I can combat loneliness is to try and connect, to try and be with people and like just share my heart and share my feelings and not like keep them all in a box somewhere where I can say like, oh, I'm so alone. Look, I'm just all by myself and I'm not a part of anything. But like when I put myself out there, even when it's challenging, it allows a path for me to get out of loneliness.
One of the things that I've come to realize is to get out of loneliness and to get out of that feeling of loneliness, I have to take action, which oftentimes feels like the last thing I want to do, because loneliness has this like crippling ability against me. Like it affects me physically, it affects me mentally, and I can be in this state where I feel so alone that I'm like, oh, it's draining my energy. Like I don't want to go do anything now because I'm so alone, and I can get so down on myself. Whether that's because I feel singled out and feel like I don't belong anywhere, or like nobody wants me to be part of that, or if it's just because I haven't gotten out of the house in a while and actually gone and done things, because as an introvert, it is so fun and so relaxing to be at home by myself, but in a way that can almost turn against me, because it's like, oh, I've spent too much time alone and too much time by myself, and now I feel like I don't have this ability to go do something, or I get to the point where it's like, I haven't been invited anywhere. Like, I haven't been invited anywhere, so I don't have anywhere to go. Well, why don't I be the one to invite myself? So I've had to challenge myself of when I get to the point where I'm feeling lonely and I'm battling with that, and to pull out of that, I need to take action. And whether that's action to accept an invite that I've received that I've ignored, or been like, oh, well, that means I'm going to be around a group of people and that's uncomfortable, so I'm just going to stay home. Or if that's to initiate the invite, hey, let's all meet up at the park and go for a walk, or let's all go to the lake, or let's go grab coffee. And it can be so simple, but yet such a hard step to take. But it's so good for me in the end when I do.
It's hard sometimes to take that initial step and to be the one to initiate something like that. I think for myself, I'm very much waiting for other people. When I'm feeling alone, I want other people to notice that about me and come and cheer me up. And that's obviously not a realistic expectation to place on people. I was thinking about the enemy out there prowling around, and his goal is destruction. And I think one of the ways that he likes to do that is to get people isolated and to get people away from the herd, so to speak, away from your church family or your familial family or your friends, to get you alone, feeling sorry for yourself. And for me, that's when I start hearing those voices and those lies about you're not good enough, there's something wrong with you if you're single, or you deserve to be alone. All of those things, they don't come when I'm connected with people. They come when I'm feeling alone and feeling sorry for myself and sulking and waiting for other people to come and fix me, rather than me step out and try to initiate something that would lead to connection.
And I think for me, action sometimes looks different because I think like inviting a group of people to the park is an amazing idea, but sometimes that feels so big that it feels like, I'm not going to do that. But one thing that I can do that I find often exceptionally helpful, and I sometimes hesitate to think it will be, is the action of admitting to the Lord and myself, I'm feeling lonely. Mm-hmm. The action of being honest and expressing my heart. The action of telling friends, hey, this is going to be, Christmas is like a really hard season sometimes for me, because at the end of the day, when everyone else is with families, I'm not. And so, like, I have some friends and I'm like, I tell them ahead of time, like, hey, can you invite me to your house on Christmas? Because that's a hard day for me. And so I think it's reasonable, Mike, that you would want some people to look for you in those seasons of difficulties, and I think people want to, they just need to know you need it. And so being transparent and vulnerable is not often conceived of as like this fun thing to do, but the results of it are transformative. And I think another action that I do is like try to take care of myself. Like if my house is a mess, I'm going to feel way more lonely and like miserable because I like tidy and order. Or like if I haven't been outside in 6 months, like I need to go for a walk. Yeah, like there are just some self-care things that I can do that can make me more vulnerable and susceptible to loneliness. You were talking about that enemy attacking. Like the more I can strengthen myself with those practices that I know are life-giving, the more fortified I am, so that when those attacks come, I'm able to weather them. But if I'm beat down and weary and worn out and exhausted and grumpy. Like, it's not going to take much. And I'm like, oh, I'm very lonely now.
This might also sound a little weird, but April, when you're talking about doing like something for yourself, whether that's getting your house clean or reaching out to a friend and being like, hey, this season is hard for me. It's a lonely time. Please invite me over, and just being vulnerable. This is going to sound really counterintuitive, but the other day I wanted to go somewhere. I just wanted to get out of the house and go do something. But I was like, I'm alone. Like, can I go do this by myself? Can I go to the coffee shop and get a cup of coffee by myself? Or can I go watch a movie by myself? And I got thinking about it. I'm like, why not? Like, they're public places. Why can't I just take myself on a date and just go and enjoy people watching or reading a book or just a really good cup of coffee, because that's a sure way to cheer me up. Like, why can't I just take myself and go do it, especially in those times when it's overwhelming to invite people or to do it with people? Just an action to get me physically moving out of my normal space and just and be purposeful in enjoying that time with myself and the Lord, and maybe even reflecting on who He created me to be and why He created me and for that community, and just not limit what I'm allowing myself to do because I don't have somebody to do it with. It's like I can do it by myself and then choose to enjoy it to the fullest point that I am able to in that moment. And maybe I'll do it 2 or 3 times in a couple months, and each time enjoy it a little different because loneliness isn't hitting so hard one time, or loneliness is hitting harder. So that was a fun, exciting thought that I just had, that I'm like, maybe I should try that more often as a way to combat the overwhelm of emotions or loneliness or singleness that I feel.
It reminds me of when I was turning 30, which was 3 years ago. I was having a really hard time as my birthday was approaching. And it wasn't something I had thought about before, but as I was thinking about it then, I just had this realization that there was a part of me that was kind of pressing pause on my life, because life actually begins when you're married and you have a white picket fence and a house and 2.5 kids, or whatever. That's when life begins. And so for me in my 20s, it was fine because I still have plenty of time. For whatever reason, when I hit 30, it's like, oh no, what if this is actually a reality for the rest of my life? What if I am never married? Does that mean that my life is just on pause forever? And I had to come to this place, and God helped get me there, where I had to find contentment where I am right now, in the season of life I am right now. And I have to realize that life is rolling on before me, whether I think that I'm on the sidelines waiting to jump in when I find a spouse and that'll solve all my problems, or whether I'm in right now thriving and enjoying as much as I can. And so that was just sort of like, Becki, giving yourself permission to go on a coffee date on your own. I've had to give myself permission to live and to not feel like I'm in this limbo place where I won't actually start to live until I have a wife and we can go on vacation together. So finding your contentment outside of that, I think, is key. And God helped me with that for sure.
And I think that's so wise, because we have this one little life on the planet, and then all of eternity with Christ. And, if you're not living the life God gave you, you're just kind of on the sideline, like you said, you're not going to fully feel content because you're just in limbo. And we all have seasons of waiting, but and every single journey is different, right? Some people get married young and then their spouse passes and they're in their senior years and they're first facing singleness as an adult, and other people are single their whole lives. And for me, I was quite certain I would be married in my mid-20s at the latest. You know, in my family, my mom and my sister both got married young, and I just fully expected that family norm would be my story. And so I think I was like mid-30s, and I was like, whew, I'm going to have to like start doing some stuff. Like, I can't wait. I can't keep thinking like, oh, I'm not going to move forward with big investments or with planning for my future, because although my desire deeply is to be married, God hasn't seen fit to bring a spouse to me. And, you know, you can do what you can, but you can't force something that like that. At least I've not had success on that.
Me either.
And so like I never thought in a million years that I would still be single at my age. I'm in my mid to late 40s, and you know, I never could have imagined. So if I had never moved forward, if I had waited and not jumped into life in my mid-30s, I would still have just wasted a decade of my life. Not wasted, but I would have not fully embraced a decade of my life. And we don't know what tomorrow will hold. You know, we don't know when God's going to call us home. So living fully, living present, living open, going to the coffee shop when you want to, watching the movie that stirs your heart, like going on that vacation, you know, those are all things that those little moments of the day make up a life, and they can bring you fulfillment and contentment.
I completely agree, and that was very wonderfully said.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I guess that I was thinking was just the importance of God in the loneliness. One time I was with someone and they were like, well, where 2 or 3 are gathered, there the Lord is. And I was with one other person. They're like, I guess the Lord's here now. And they said, I actually don't like that because I'm waiting for someone. And I said, well, the Holy Spirit lives inside of you, so you're always two. You always have two. And so I think that just like that awareness that as alone as we feel or as lonely as we feel, and there are so many things that would be lovely to have a person, right? Like someone to help figure out which tires to buy, or to sit and watch the sunset and hold their hand. Like those are all things that we all long for if you are seeking a spouse or a partner. But there is this other truth that still lives side by side within us, and that's God will never abandon us. He will never forsake us. He will always be faithful and always be true. And so I think the thing that has like, in the moments that my single journey felt like bare knuckles on the side of a cliff about to fall off, and there's been times that it's been easier or hard, but the thing that's held me and sustained me was like this deep knowledge that I'm not truly ever alone as a Christian. The Holy Spirit is there to comfort and guide and give wisdom. And in those places where I don't know what to do or how to move forward or where to even begin, like I have companionship to lead me. And so I don't know, I just think that is one of the most important things to combat my loneliness, is to bring my mind and my heart to the awareness that I'm never truly, really, fully alone.
April, you so beautifully summed up this idea of never being alone. And for me, just to say, you're never alone, that sounds so cliche, and yet that's what helped me find contentment. This idea that God and I are close. I'm not ultimately going through life alone. He's right beside me, walking with me. So when I'm mad or afraid or alone, he's right there, and I love that I can talk to him anytime. He's closer than a spouse. He talks about in scriptures how he knows our hearts so completely, better than we even know ourselves. And what a comfort and encouragement that is, that any time of the day I can say, hey God, I need your help with this because I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm feeling this or this, and I just need you. And so I love that truth that we're not alone. You're never alone if you know Christ as your Lord and Savior. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is just the importance of friendship. And I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, and I remember
the fellowship.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. I was reading an article about J.R.R. Tolkien, and how when he penned The Lord of the Rings, that one of the things he wanted to convey is the power of friendship. And he would talk about how oftentimes we think, oh, the most powerful version of love is the romantic love, the spouse love. And in his mind, he would say at least equally strong is that bond of friendship. And you see that in the fellowship. Mm-hmm. You see it between Frodo and Sam and Merry Pippin. And so that helped me realize, oh, that's really cool, because I have that. I do have that. I'm not lacking that. If friendship can be one of the deepest bonds and deepest forms of love that we get to experience, and Jesus, the God of the universe, says, call me friend. How beautiful and encouraging is that? Absolutely.
I am a little older than you guys, and one of the hardest realizations was that I wouldn't be a mom. And so, like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get too emotional, but, like, that was hard. And to have friends that were, like, honest and real, and I could share that grief with, and they walked me through it. And I thought, God, your gift to me of friendship helped fill a need that I otherwise would have never got met. Like, to get to, I don't have to live my life only through my own abilities and my own connections. I get to live fully in the community that God's provided. And so I just think that there is something that's such an amazing opportunity of friends, because they show us the face of God.
That's so good. I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That was beautifully said. Thanks for listening to episode 2 of Every Single Journey. If you've liked what you've heard, click the subscribe button to be notified when future episodes are available. You can also share this podcast on your social media pages so others can be encouraged too. If you're looking for more faith-based content like this, be sure to check out Family Life's other original podcasts, including If That Makes Sense, Therese Talk, 10 Minutes With, and the Parable Podcast. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Your financial gifts make podcasts like this possible as we seek to share the hope we have in Jesus. You can find out more on our website at familylife.org.